In this video, we are going to be talking about tracking your metrics because I've talked to countless people in the high ticket space. I'm going to be straight up. Most of your guys' systems fucking suck. You can't tell me the simple stuff like your close rate and your show rate per individual sales rep. And if we get deeper, you can't tell me exactly how much cash each individual YouTube video you post has brought in you. In the past year, my agency has generated over $1 million cash for our clients who are high ticket coaches, consultants, service providers, agencies, anyone who sells a high ticket offer. One of the biggest contributors to our success has been exactly what we're talking about in this video. I'm going to be sharing A through Z every single metric that you need to be tracking to effectively, at minimum, double your business's income. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. There's 3 sections that we mainly want to track because the funnel, obviously there's different stages inside. So we want to track everywhere from the top to the middle to the bottom. So starting, we want to track our funnel tracking. And this is to get us more leads into our ecosystem by upping our opt-in rates, stuff like that, okay? Then our dialing tracking, so pickup rates, stuff like that, set rate. This whole goal right here, we need to track this so we can see where our bottlenecks are so we can book more calls onto the calendar. And then from here, sales calls tracking, so things like close rate, show rate, stuff like this, so we can actually get more sales from there. Now, I want to share this quick perspective with you just to show you how much money you could be making if you up your rates. Let's say every single week, you get 100 leads through your funnel. Okay, but these are your rates for your business. And let's say your offer is $1,000. Hopefully it's more, but for the sake of this scenario, let's say it's $1,000. You're only making $540 out of that total 100 leads per week, which is terrible. But now let's say you figured out how to double each of these rates. And this is just 5 rates out of all of the rates I'm going to show you in this video. But let's say that you doubled each one of these 5. That leaves us with literally a 32x inside of our business, which lets us take in $17,280 per week, which again, keep in mind that our offer is only $1,000 in this scenario, so you'll be making way more, hopefully. But I hope you can see the power in that, right? We started with terrible rates and we were making $540, but then we simply just doubled each of these rates. Now we're making 32 times the amount. And this wouldn't have been possible if we didn't track our metrics and know where we were lacking. Because when you don't know your metrics, you are literally flying blind. All right, so this is where all the magic goes down. This is a dashboard that we build out for all of our clients to track all of our metrics so that we can scale. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to track, which is at the top of the funnel, is going to be your opt-in rate. So you can see exactly how many people are opting in and applying after landing on your page. This should honestly be around 30% or more. If this is low or lower than 30%, it could be because your headline sucks. Maybe it's your VSL that sucks, or maybe it's the application, which I'm about to talk about in a second. You are going to want to track your application completion rate. Now, I use Typeform for most of my clients, so we can actually see the metrics inside of here. Hopefully what you're using, you can also see as well. But as you can see, we have a 61.8% completion rate, which is pretty good. If this is low and you get a low amount of leads, you may want to consider lowering friction on your survey. So like asking less questions, adding multiple choice questions instead of having them type like super long answers. And you can even have them put in their contact info before asking budget to invest, because I notice a lot of people will drop off after you ask the budget to invest. So if you can ask their credentials first, their name, email, phone number, before you ask the budget, and then you enable partial submit. So after they submit their name, email, phone number, you get that data. And then if they don't answer that next question, you still have their data so you can call them and stuff like that. So these kind of things help just up your completion rate if you have a low amount of leads. But if this rate is high and you get a ton of unqualified applications, you can consider adding more friction by doing the exact opposite. All right, now the next thing we are going to want to track is our total applications, our qualified applications percent, our unqualified applications percent, and our partial submissions percent out of these total applications. Now, the reason that we're tracking our qualified rate and unqualified rate and partial submissions rate is because we are trying to scale, right? So we need to be as efficient as possible. So we need to know out of how many people that are unqualified. So we have like 60% of people out of this 800 people, which is around 450, something like that, right? We need to know what percent out of these people are actually getting booked on calls and closed. It really depends on your niche, but sometimes a lot of these people will get booked on calls. Sometimes it's none of them, and you need to know that rate, because if none of these people are getting booked on calls, that means your dialer just wasted calling 450 people when we could be using our time more efficiently to call people who are actually qualified. So we actually track this rate inside of our CRM, which isn't shown on here. Now, obviously, we want to track our total booked calls as well. And this rate right here, which is very, very important, so I would pay attention. This is our qualified application to booked call rate. The higher this is, the more money that you will make. And it's going to be easier for your dialers and sales reps to get people on a call, which is going to make you more money. It's way easier to close someone if they book a call themselves compared to chasing down an application and trying to book them on a call. This rate actually used to be a little bit lower for us, but now it's sitting at 100%. So it's kind of evening out a little bit. But if this rate for you is not at 100%, I'm going to show you how you can get it to 100%. That way you can make more money. We used to have our funnel set up. So when this person would apply, if they were qualified, you're going to want to have logic, of course, right? If they're unqualified, you send them to a different redirect. If they are qualified, you let them book a call. But what we were doing is we were sending people who were qualified to a whole separate landing page with a calendar on it. And now what this does is inside of people's heads, they're thinking, okay, I just submitted my application, I'm done. So then this causes a lot of drop off rate because they think they're done. So they actually don't end up booking that call, which left us with like a 50% qualified application to booked call rate. And we were making half the amount of money that we are now because of that, until we made the switch to where we integrated the Typeform into the Calendly. So if they're qualified, they can't submit. Like the last question is the Calendly itself. And in order to submit the application, they actually have to go ahead and book that call. So now we get literally double the amount of booked calls, which makes us double the amount of money. But one thing I will say is you will have a little bit of a drop off from people who are qualified that don't end up booking that call. So what you should be doing is adding a partial submission somewhere inside of your Typeform, like I was talking about before. So if they don't book that call, you still have their info and you can still call them, text them, whatever you need to do. Now, the next thing that we want to track is the canceled call rate and the confirmed call rate out of the booked calls that we get through the funnel. And these are very important too, because we don't want unqualified leads to book on our calendar, period. We want this confirmed call rate right here to be as high as possible, because what we are tracking here is the rate in which we cancel calls after someone books a call because they're unqualified after calling them. If the cancel call rate is very high, it likely means that you're letting people into your calendar too easily. And like I was talking about before, you're going to want to have that logic set up so that only qualified people based on the survey can actually go ahead and book that call, because you don't want these unqualified leads to be taking up slots that the qualified people should be able to take. Now, in our case, 57% is honestly kind of uncomfortably high. So just recently we fixed the survey because we noticed that 70% of the people who were unqualified after dialing them had answered this one question in a specific way. So we changed that question so that they couldn't actually book in a call if they answered it that specific way. And now we have seen a drastic decrease in the cancel call rate, and it's helping a lot. So it's very important to track that data, especially on your Typeform, your survey, whatever you're using as well, to see which answers are leaving you with these cancel call rates. So again, literally just tracking this specific rate right here. It's actually this rate I meant, but again, tracking this in specific has again made us more money. Now, funnel source tracking as well. So you're going to want to track obviously where all of your leads are coming from overall each platform in specific. So YouTube, email, Instagram, whatever other platforms you're using. And then also to take it a step deeper, you're going to want to see how each specific part on each platform is performing. So you can see if your stories are ripping, you can see if your setters are ripping in the DMs, maybe it's just your profile link, whatever it is. So you can see where your applications, where your booked calls are coming from. And then also, I'll get more into this later, but the actual YouTube video that your leads are coming from. So this is going to be very important, which I'll get into more in the sales side of things. But the next step in the funnel is where the sales process begins. This is where the dialers make their first touch point. So we want to track all of our dialing metrics. Number one, and this one is super, super important, which is the pickup rate. And I have a lot of information for you guys right here. This is going to help you a lot to increase this rate because of how important this is. If you are not aware of your pickup rate or any of these other rates that I'm about to show you, you're going to want to start having your dialers start filling out EOD forms once they're done with their dials for the day. But anyways, your pickup rate is showing us out of how many people who apply or how many people that we actually call are picking up the phone. So if yours is low, I have a ton of sauce right here that's going to help you up it, because I've been on several offers where the pickup rate was bad and we doubled it, even tripled it in some certain cases. So this is going to help you guys out a lot. Number one, make sure your dialers are calling these leads 2 to 3 times in one rep, not just once. So what that means is when your dialers are calling, say it's through Go High Level, whatever it is, you want them to call 3 times or 2 times, okay, not just once. Nowadays, so many people have DND on. There's even settings where people that get called from a new number, it doesn't actually ring them. So call twice, call 3 times. The pickup rate will drastically increase just by doing this one thing. Then you're also going to want to have an automated text message that gets sent to the lead after they apply or book a call. And this does a few things. So basically what that means is someone applies, someone books a call, you have an automation where the trigger is, application or book a call. It sends them this message, which I'm about to get into. What this does, number one, is it's going to create a first touch point. So this lead now gets familiar with the number. Okay. This already ups the pickup rate right here. But if they do respond, this raises their intent level as well, which also makes them more likely to pick up. And then along with that, inside of your message that you send them, if you include, quote unquote, this is dialer name with offer owner's name's team, when you call this person, inside of the caller ID that pops up when you call them, it will say maybe dialer name next to it, which drastically increases pickup rate because it'll kind of signify that this person may be in their contacts. So they're more likely to be like, oh, who is this? Let me answer it. Instead of just some random number, it says maybe dialer name next to it if you send this message. Then finally, the most important thing, call these leads within 5 minutes of them applying or booking a call. There have been so many studies that prove that after this 5-minute mark, the pickup rate drastically decreases. It's crazy. Literally, this one tip, calling leads within 5 minutes of them booking a call or applying, will up your pickup rate by at least double. I'm telling you, it's actually insane. So make sure you implement this as well. What I will say for this, to make it easier for your sales team, I would make an automation whenever someone applies or books a call, it just gets sent to the Slack channel so they get notified and they can actually call this person because they get the notification. And 2 extra tips as well. There are 2 softwares that I would recommend that you get. Number 1 is going to be something like Allaware, Kixi. There are tons of softwares like this out there, but basically it will make it so that when you call this lead, the first 3 digits, like the area code of the number, usually signifies that person is from your city. If you call them through one of these softwares, it will change your number that you're calling from to a number that has that 3-digit area code in front of the number. And I don't know about you, but when I see that number, when someone's calling me with my area code, I always pick up the phone. And I mean, a lot of people do as well because using softwares like these have increased our pickup rates by so much. So I would recommend using something like that. And then another software I would recommend checking out is SendBlue or something like it. Basically, when you are sending automated messages through Go High Level, for example, it will send the message as a green text message, which instantly raises the lead scored. Okay. And this lowers reply rate because when they have a lower intent rate, they have a lower pickup rate. So what softwares like SendBlue do is they will send your message in blue, as you can tell by the name. And this ups the response rate, which lowers their guard and helps with the pickup rate inevitably. Okay. I'm not sponsored or making money at all by these softwares. I just genuinely have used these softwares myself and have been helped by them. So I'm putting you all in some game. Now, we also want to track set rate and set rate out of total pickups. So these percentages right here. This is a general good metric to see how many leads are qualified after you call them, because typically if they don't get set on the call, they are typically not qualified, which brings us into the next sections, which are hang up rate and qualified but not set rate. This hang up rate right here is basically telling us that 2.99 or 3% of people who we actually get in contact with, who actually answer the call, end up hanging up on that call on us. So with these calls, we are going to want to find the lead and we're going to want to review these calls with our dialers to see what the reason is that they hang up, because usually this is a bad sales rep problem right here, or it could be a script problem. So we want to review these calls and figure out the underlying problem right here, because the higher this is, the less money you're going to make. Same thing with the qualified but not set rate. This tells us the percentage of people who are qualified for a closing call, but they didn't actually end up getting set on that call. And with these calls, you're going to want to listen back to the recordings as well with the dialer and figure out why this person didn't get set on the call. Again, it could be a skill problem for the dialer or a script thing. You want this rate to be as low as possible as well. All right, and then we want to track total calls, total pickups, and total sets, and the actual number and not the rate, because we want to see the KPIs our dialers are hitting every single day. With this dashboard, we have the ability to track by date and by dialer. So let's say we wanted to track by date, okay? Let's say the 15th. Okay, we have John right here. John did 110 calls on the 15th. He got 67 pickups and 10 total sets. And these rates are at 0. So now we know today, okay, we don't need to do any really review calls with him, okay? He worked a total of 6 hours and decent pickup rate, blah, 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 okay? But now let's say we go over to John, or Theo, I mean. And let's say Theo had the same amount of calls. This is an example. And he had 1 set. And he had 70 pickups, okay? Then we'll be like, what the fuck? And he has like a 10% rate here. He has a 30% right here. We're like, what the fuck is Theo doing, right? We're firing his ass because we actually know his metrics throughout the day. I mean, maybe we don't fire him. Maybe we just train him. Maybe we get John to help him out a little bit because John's doing better. But you get the point. You need to be able to see your metrics for your dialers individually so you can make proper decisions when it comes to hiring and firing, instead of just doing it based off emotion, based off what you think is going on, instead of actually being able to see the hard facts. And this leads us into our working hours as well. This is something that's very important to track, especially when it comes to hiring and firing, or if you have some kind of launch coming up. Because if we are doing a big launch, for example, if we know the amount of leads we will get, or we have like a rough estimate, most of the time you're kind of just guessing how many sales reps to hire, okay? And a lot of the time people just overhire or they underhire, and it ends up ruining the business. However, if you have this tracking system set up, you can see on average how long it takes a person to hit a certain amount of calls and a certain amount of sets. So you can see, okay, let's say John and Theo on this day, 12 hours to hit 210 sets. So it's kind of averaging, right? Like they do 6 hours to hit 100 calls. So now you know if you're doing a big launch, you think you'll get maybe like 1,000 leads within every single day. Then you'll know, okay, I probably need to hire around 10 reps because every single day we get 1,000 leads. So now you can actually make calculated decisions when it comes to hiring reps. So you can ask them, hey, how many hours can you work a day? If they say, yo, I can work probably like 2 hours a day, you'll probably be like, bro, I can't do this. We got to get someone who can work actually like 6 hours or so a day. So this just helps when you are hiring and firing a lot. And the last thing we want to track on here is the objections. So if I take off these filters real quick, we want to be able to see what the objections that are coming up that are preventing our dialers from setting these people on the calls. So a lot of the time it's going to be no money, but if they are qualified but not set, it will be something else. And we want to go over those objections on our sales team meetings to figure out how we can overcome them. But with that said, now you understand what you need to track for your funnel, and you understand what you need to track when it comes to dialing. So if you can up just a few of these rates in both of these sections alone, your business will already be making way more money. But in this next section, I'm going to talk about this is where you can really make way more money, because I don't know if you remember, but in the example before, we were able to quadruple our business with just the funnel metrics and the dialing metrics. But with these sales metrics, you're going to be able to up to 32x your business or even more. Because up until this point, our goal has been getting leads and getting leads on booked calls. But now we are actually at the sales call where we make the actual money. So pay attention to this part. I can't stress it enough. This is the most important part of this whole entire video. The sales calls metrics. So we actually have this at the top of the dashboard because it's the most fun to look at anyways. You can see all your cash, your revenue, your cash collected after fees, which this one's pretty self-explanatory, but you're obviously going to want to track how much the business is making. You're also going to want to see these numbers by date so that you can compare the performance by months or weeks or days, whatever it is. Maybe you're changing your systems from last month so you can see how much better they're performing or if they're not performing as well. And you're also going to want to track it by closer, by setter, and by source, which I'll get into in just a little. But just a quick side note as well, if your cash collected after fees is way lower than your cash collected, so these fees, you can have a formula set up to where it just multiplies it by whatever your fees are. If this is way lower, I would say like anywhere, if you have anywhere over 5% fees, I would recommend hitting up your payment processor and just asking for lower fees, or even finding a different payment processor, because over 5 is just kind of a lot. From here, we are going to want to track our average order value, or AOV. This is another thing that you're going to want to track. This means what is the average price someone pays for your offer in cash, not revenue, to receive your offer. So there are several reasons that you want to track this. The first thing you're going to want to check though is how far off from your offer is the AOV. So let's say we have an offer that's $25K and our AOV is $7,000. That's obviously way off, right? So check how close it is, number one. If your AOV is way lower than your offer price, you may be targeting the wrong kind of leads. Maybe your offer is too expensive for those leads, which is why I was talking about targeting the wrong kind of leads, especially if your close rate is low and your AOV is low as well. Or maybe you need to do better when it comes to service delivery and following up with people to finish their payments. There's honestly many reasons that your AOV could be low, but this is something that you want to match your offer price as close as possible. And if your AOV is high, you can honestly test out raising your offer prices, because it's easily affordable for your audience if it's very, very close, which this is pretty close to our AOV, so maybe we could consider raising it a little bit, especially if your close rate is high as well, because this most likely means that your offer, again, is affordable to your audience. Then from there, we want to track our total confirmed calls and our total live calls so that we can get our show rate and no show rate. If you ask ChatGPT, what percent is 97 out of 135. You would not get 75%. I think you get like 71% or something like that. But that's just because we have some canceled calls as well, which we don't track inside the show rate. So this data is correct. If you're just a math wizard, you looked at this and you're calling me out on my bullshit, it actually is correct. We just have, like 6 canceled calls or whatever. So it does add up. But anyways, if your show rate is low, there are many reasons that it could be, which I actually made a video in the past showing you guys how to improve your close rate, because on most of our offers, our show rate is over 70 to 80%. And I'm actually making a video in a few days as well, which is going to give you guys some more sauce on how to up this rate as well. But just some quick things that it could be your setters and closers not hyping up the call enough for the lead to show up. Maybe your sales process sucks. And with that said, maybe you're just not giving the lead enough information before their call to justify their decision to show up. Again, there are so many reasons this could be low, which I'm not going to be 100% going into this video, but this is one of the rates that is very important that you keep high. Now, moving on to close rate. This is actually pretty high for our offers, 80%. This is another thing that we want to keep high, obviously. Usually, if it's organic, we sit at about 50% or above. And if it's through cold traffic with paid ads, we sit around 30% or above. But if yours is lower than that, or just low in general, again, in my next video, I will be going over how to up this rate as much as possible. It'll be very, very valuable for you guys. So make sure you stay tuned for that. It actually may be up at this point at the time that you're watching this video. Anyways, disqualification rate right here, right? We have a 3.88% disqualification rate. This is telling us that 3.88% of people who hop on a call with our closers end up not being qualified. Okay, so usually early on in the call, the closers can kind of feel it out a little bit, asking them some qualifying questions. And sometimes this person ends up not being qualified. This is most of the time a setting problem. So with these calls, it's very important, again, to review these calls like I was talking about before with, the qualified but not set rate or the hang up rate. Review these calls as well, because we don't want our setters putting people on the calendar with the closers that are not qualified, because we don't want to waste their time. And then again, source tracking, which I'll get into more in a second. It's actually crazy what I'm about to show you. But just the basic stuff, which is, your general call source. So where are your confirmed calls coming from? Mediums, again, and then also per YouTube video as well. Now, let's get into these filters up here, because this data is very important. It's good to see, but we need these filters to actually dial in on exactly what these metrics are. So, per date, per closer, per setter, by source, whatever it is, right? So starting with the date, again, like I mentioned, you are going to want to be able to see these metrics based off the date period so that you can compare different stages in your business. So for example, let's say last month we had a specific sales process set in place, and we can see that our show rate was 50% last month. But then this month we switch up our sales process and now we're at an 80% show rate, for example. Now we have data showing us proof that our new sales process is better compared to the old one. Do you guys see how powerful that is? A lot of you guys go into this business and you just start trying random stuff. You start switching up your processes, switching up your sales assets, stuff like that. But you don't have hard data to show you exactly how much money you're making in those times of periods to prove that one is better than the other. And you end up just flying blindly and not knowing exactly what you're improving and what's actually working. So now you can use your data to make data-enforced decisions that are facts, not just based off emotions. So for example, I can go ahead and see our data from, let's say, April, so around 2 months ago, from April 1st to April 30th. So that whole month, we made $58,000. Our show rate was 100%, which we only had 8 calls, but still 100%. And we had an 87.50% close rate. But then if I compare this, if I clear this and I go to this calendar month, we are 24 days in, so we still have a few days left, but we've done $70,000 this month so far. Our total close rate is 50%. Our show rate is 60%. So we're honestly decreasing a little bit here. So we need to figure out what's going wrong with our process. Why are people not showing up? Why are people not closing as much? Fix this problem so that next month we can do more. Now, another thing that is going to be super important to track is the rates and numbers based off each specific sales rep. So we'll start with the closers. Let's say that we click on Evan. We can see his specific metrics. So he's collected us $253,000. Here's his close rate, his show rate, how many total confirmed calls he's had, how many live calls he's had. And what we can do is, let's say now we click on Alex and we can start comparing sales reps. So as we can see, Alex has made less money, but he's had less confirmed calls. So, with that said, we'd probably look at the rates a little bit more because the numbers is kind of unfair here. but we can check on the show rate, the close rate, and see how they're doing. So now again, you can make hard data enforced decisions without any emotions or feelings getting in the way. You have the hard facts straight in front of your face. And this makes hiring and firing so much easier. Or if you don't want to fire, it makes training way easier, because let's say, for example, Alex had a 99% close rate, just for example, okay? And then we go over to Evan, and he has a 20% close rate. I mean, at that point, probably fire Evan, but we could also train him by having Alex show us what he's doing to get a way higher close rate, and then give that information over to Evan to help him increase his. Basically, studying what the higher performing sales reps are doing and then implementing that with the lower level sales reps to imitate their success. Now, same thing pretty much with the setters. We are going to be able to see how much money they have set for us. We can also see the percentage of leads that they set, which are closing, showing, and being disqualified. The close rate is going to be more in the closer's hands for the most part. But if your dialer sets a very low close rate, show rate, stuff like that, again, you can review those dial recordings, see the people who didn't close, see the people who didn't show, and see if there's things that the dialer could improve on. But the biggest rates here that you are going to want to track for the dialers are going to be the show rate and the disqualification rate, as we can see here. So let's take off Evan. Let's put on John. As we can see, John has set us $246,000. His show rate is 67%, and his close rate that he sets is 76%. And you can also see his disqualification rate, which is 3.08%, which it's honestly a little bit higher than it should be. But again, if these rates are high, like if this was 20%, we would surely need to review those dial calls, because that's obnoxious. Because that means that the dialer is setting shitty quality leads, and maybe they're not going deep enough into the setting call before they set the leads. Now, moving on to the source, this is one of the coolest things about this dashboard, which is going to be the source tracking. This is something that you need to be doing to see how different platforms are doing compared to each other, and also to be able to run an actual effective YouTube channel where you know your metrics and you know how much cash each individual YouTube video is bringing you, which I'll get into down here in a second. But for now, we'll start with the source. Let me take off John. Let's say we start with Instagram, okay? As you can see, Instagram has generated us $331,000. And our close rate and our show rate is actually pretty good on here as well. Then I can also track YouTube. Let's see, we have a 95% close rate and an 84% show rate as well, which YouTube has brought in us $158,000, a little bit less, but our rates are really good on here. Just for example though, let's say we keep these rates the same on YouTube, but we go over onto Instagram and we see that we have a 50% close rate and a 30% show rate. This would maybe tell me, okay, why is our Instagram rate so bad? And why is our YouTube rate so good? Maybe we should try implementing something to where people can't actually book a call until they go onto YouTube first. This is actually something that happened on another offer that I was working on, where the Instagram show rate and close rate was not the best, and the YouTube show rate and close rate was way better. And we were making a decent amount of money. But since I saw this, we switched our strategy to only let people book in after watching YouTube videos. So people couldn't book in literally at all using Instagram. They would have to go to YouTube first. This upped our total close rate and show rate so much. We got a little bit less leads, but it actually helped us make way more money because we started pushing YouTube way harder after seeing this data. But I literally wouldn't have any idea to do this in the first place if we weren't tracking this data. So it's very, very important. Now, with that said, the source and content, this is my favorite part, honestly. The source is very important to be able to extract data from. But now getting into building that effective YouTube channel, we need to be able to see our stats per YouTube video we post. So in this dashboard, you'll see the content section. If I keep this source on YouTube and then I go over into content, these are all of the YouTube videos that we have posted on this client's account, okay? So all these videos, what I can do from here is I can click on each of these videos, like this, for example, and see all of our rates for each specific YouTube video, okay? So as I can see, this pure content video brought us $15,000 in cash. So we closed 2 clients from there. However, if I take this off, I think it was this one did really good for us. Yeah, $52,000 just from one single YouTube video. 100% close rate, 77% show rate. Okay, that's pretty freaking good from one YouTube video. Okay, so now with this data, because we have this, we can see, okay, this single YouTube video brought us $52,500. But again, if we go back to this, I'm pretty sure it was the pure content. This one brought us $15,000. So what did we do different in the other one that brought us way more cash? And then we use this hard data to start making more videos like the other one that actually brought us cash. So instead of worrying about views now and stressing over views, you actually have the hard data to show you which videos are bringing you the actual money and you use that data to recreate that same content to make you more money. I really hope you can see how powerful this is. It's honestly freaking insane, especially when it comes to building an actual good YouTube channel that actually brings you sales instead of just views and subscribers. This is amazing to be able to see. Now, with that said, there's a few extra things that we track as well, like the closer commissions, the setter commissions. This honestly creates a very competitive environment with your sales team, which is a good thing. I actually let my sales team have access to this dashboard so they can see all of this info. And if they scroll down, again, they can see this section right here. They can see how much everyone has earned, and this helps them perform better. Number one, because when people see someone making more money than them on the same exact offer, they have the same opportunity, right? So they inevitably become more competitive and have something to chase. And also what happens a lot of the time as well is when these setters, when these closers see, okay, Alex 10K, but Ahmed has done 21K. A lot of time what happens is Alex will reach out to Ahmed and say, yo, bro, what are you doing different than me? And they'll help each other out. And it's like mini coaching sessions where they're just helping each other out to make more money and share the sauce that, they're using to make more money, which is honestly amazing. It helps the sales team so much to be able to see this. And then another section we have down here is the recent closes, but also the recent other activities. So people who didn't show up, didn't close, and people who were disqualified. And this is honestly just really, really good to be able to find those leads so that we can review these calls with the sales team. So with that said, these are just the metrics that we track for our clients for the book a call funnel in specific. This doesn't mean that this is every single metric that you can possibly track. These are just the ones that genuinely help us make more money. If you're watching this and you want a dashboard like this integrated into your business so that you can scale 10 times easier and faster, there's a link below. You can click to see if my agency aligns with your business. And if we do, you can go ahead and book your call with me directly so we can talk about implementing something like this into your business. And if you want more advice on scaling your high ticket offer, make sure you subscribe. I will have a lot more videos like this coming. And you can also follow me on Instagram with the link below, where I post more insights on business, my life, stuff like that, so you guys can follow along. But that wraps up the end of the video. I will see you guys in the next one.